Hello and welcome to this 13th edition of Mind the Mind. It's been a journey, yes, we know, and it's an awesome one at that. And here we're not just looking at the fact that, oh, we're just, organizing this event for organizing sake. No, we're talking about minding the gap. Is the 13th edition, and we're glad, we're excited, that we've come this far. The journey has not been, all rosy, all smooth. Yes, we know. However, we have been able to mind our minds as we go through the process. And for each time that you smash your goals, for each time that you, even from the point where you're visualizing the idea of your goal, we know that there's one constant factor that has held everyone together. And that is the factor, that is the God factor. So we know that God has brought us here, yes. But at the point of you, talking about, bringing your ideas into fruition and everything, what do you do to mind these gaps in all the processes? Because you cannot just jump from there to here and then here to there without minding the gaps, without, looking at the processes. No one just happens, no one happens. Even in so many scientific theories and everything, there's a point where an idea is conceived before an innovation, becomes, world class or becomes even something to talk about. So what are the things, that you think that you may have done that brought you, took you from there to here, apart from the God factor? Because God factor, we know that's a constant, yes. And so that's where we're starting from today. And that's where our icebreaker is from. The icebreaker today is for us to reflect, is a kind of reflective moment where we think about what we may have done and what went wrong. What did we not do well? What did we do well? What are the steps that we took before we got to this point? I'm talking in relation to your goals now. I'm talking in relation to your vision, to your purpose in life. I'm talking in relation to everything that you have planned to do. So what have you done? How can you join the dots? So that's the icebreaker for today. So you may want to write it in your notepads. You may want to put it down in your journals. What you have done. What are the things that you have done? Who did you contact? And you must be able to document your process. You must be able to document your process, because there's a saying that what is not written did not happen. What is not written is not done. So if you are not able to document the process, then there's no way you're going to be able to effectively mind the gap. And that's why we're here today. So you may want to quickly write down in your notes, what are the things that you have done, before in the past, that worked well, maybe in smashing the goals that you had before that worked well. Good. What are the things that you did? What were the steps that you took? Who were the people, that helped you achieve these steps? And how did you get from there to here? So you may want to quickly, write it down in your notepads, in your journal. It's a reflective process. And I'll let you, make sure that you do that, okay? Before we jump into the main session for today. So you may want to quickly do that, and then just make sure that you're critically reflecting about everything that you may have done well, that has worked from one point to the other. And the things that you did not do well, you may want to also be very honest and sincere with yourself, okay, about the things that did not work well, the things that worked well. You may want to look at that, all right? And so that's where our icebreaker, that's what our icebreaker is for today. So while I'll let you do that, we can move quickly into our slides for today. Thank you again for joining. It's been a pleasure showing up these 13, quarters, or these 13 times, because we have it once every quarter, and it's been a journey. And showing up these 13 times is also a process. So I've also been able to, document, this journey. And I've also been able to see what may have worked, what didn't work, and how to get from there to here. So, and that's where our slide for today begins. So let me start from here. Great. So minding the gap. What does it mean to mind the gap? When we look at that word, we see it from a phrase of where someone tells you to, is coined actually from that balance where people say, oh, mind your steps, watch your steps, be careful. So it's as good as you saying, watch your steps, be careful. And then you see it probably in so many parts of the world, you see it, that phrase is said at so many different times in different parts of the world, just to let you know, oh, watch your step, mind your step, watch the next move. What does it mean to mind the gap? So in a nutshell, all right, I would say that minding the gap is that process where you are able to document everything that you did well at the actualization of your goal, and the things that you did not do well, or the things that went wrong, or the things that did not really go as planned, let me put it that way. And you are able to do the plus and the minus, and you are able to see that gap so that you'll be able to work at it and be better the next time. In a nutshell, that's how I would describe minding the gap. So that you will not have to, those things that you do, the processes that you follow, every single step, no matter how tiny those steps may feel or look like, everything that you do in that moment between your there and your here, that's supposed to take you to another there, right? Everything that you do, the processes that you follow, that would not let you, falter, that will stop you from smashing your next goal. That is what minding the gap is about in this context. I'm not talking in the context of you maybe going through a situation and then maybe you're about to fall and they say, oh, watch your step. Yes, it's all a part of it, but we're talking in relation to your goals now, in relation to minding your mind on this journey of life. Life in itself is a process. It's a process. And you cannot just let life happen to you, right? Because we know that the very essence of us being alive in itself is that we're not just existing, but we need to be able to join the dots. We need to be able to mind the gaps so that whatever gap that the first phase or second phase or the 50th phase of our lives has left us, to focus on, we will not have to have that gap transfer to the next phase. And that's what we can describe as minding the gap. Okay? And so when you look at minding the gap, you look at it in the context of the then, the now, the here, and the there. So those are 4 key elements that we're going to look at. They are exhaustible, they are inexhaustible rather, but I've decided to just focus on these 4 key elements. The then, we're talking in relation to your past, the now, the here, and the there. So you may want to say, oh, what do we mean by minding the gap in relation to your past? What it means is that everything that you may have done that worked well for you in the past, don't throw them away. Even your pain is all a part of that picture. The truth is, it's just like this analogy of you maybe writing a CV, right? And you're quoting from so year to so year. I did this. From so year to so year, I worked in this place. From so year to so year, I worked in this place. And then if there is that gap from a particular year where you did not do anything, if you're going to send that to a recruiter, that's the first place that the recruiter will pick on. They will want to know, okay, all this number of times, years were accounted for. What happened between so time and so time? And so that's where the questioning will come from. And at that time, if you're unable to account for it, it means that you have not effectively managed that particular gap. You have not effectively minded that gap. And the truth is, everything within that gap makes a whole lot of sense. Even if to you, it may have been a period where you just decided to retreat, or a period where you just decided to say, oh, I'm not doing any strenuous activity. I'm just taking time to rest. You need to document it in your goals journal. You need to document it. As far as you smashing your goal, as far as your purpose is concerned, you will need to document all of these things so that there is no gap. There is no point in your life where it's looking like, oh, at this point, I don't want to talk about it. Even the painful parts are all a part of the big picture. So you cannot have a picture and then in that picture, one part is just blank or vague or something. What happened at that point? Even if it's the darkest moments of your life, you will need to mind it. Because pain in itself, it's a gift. Pain in itself is a gift. So you need to look at your past. Look at what you may have gone through. Look at what everything that happened, the good, the bad, the ugly, the not so good parts. Yes, you need to mind that gap. And that's a whole big part of your journey. Because if you throw away your pain, who will help you mind it? No one. No one can help you validate what you yourself, constantly invalidates. No one. Your pain is valid. So even that painful experience should have taught you something. It's either it should have taught you how not to do something so that you don't, get into that particular position anymore. Or it should have taught you how well to do something. Or it should have taught you how best to do something. Or it should have taught you how never to do something. Those are the benefits or dividends of pain in relation to minding your mind. So that you don't have to go through that same pain. So that you don't have to go through that same situation. So that you don't have to go through that same circumstance or that same ordeal. No, you really do not have to go through all of that if you have properly minded the gap. That's in relation to your then. And so in relation to your now, right? You're talking in the present, and that is divided into now and here. Your here is your immediate present, like where you are right now. Now could be, oh, we're talking in relation to this year, all right? 2023. But here is a more specific aspect of now, right? Is a more specific aspect, like, let's say, of this year. We're talking in relation to the 24th of June, 2023. How do you marry these two elements together in relation to minding the gap? So you have looked at what did not work well, in your past and the things that worked well. And then you are looking at the now and the here. We're merging those two together, right? You need to mind the gap. if there's anything you should take note of, you need to take note of the relationships that you may have been in, right? I'm not talking about just amorous relationships. I'm talking about relationships generally. Relationships, that has helped you in the past, the ones that did not help you in the past, the ones that you had to, do housekeeping, about. That's when you decide to say, okay, this relationship is not working, and then you take it off. Of course, some other people will do that, to you as well. Be mindful of that, because housekeeping is in two ways. All right, as you're keeping your house, some other people too are keeping your house. So that comes to that question. That brings us to that question: what value are you bringing to the table? So that's a topic or a discussion for another day, right? But we're talking with respect to now and here. How do you mind your mind in relation to, what is happening in the present? Your present, like in the space that you are, and then your immediate present, like the minute, that very minute, just like we are now. What are the things that you need to do, that will take you from, that will link you up from that then to now, so that you don't have that unnecessary space that will bring an imbalance between your then and now, between your then and your here, right? So we look at the concept of there. That's your goal, where you're going. And it's a cycle at the end of the day, because that place called there, when you get to that place called there, you will now start, another goal to another there. And so that's what you see in this picture. Someone journeying, right? It may look like he's hiking. At that point where he has gotten to that rock, for instance, when you look at that picture, he's got all his bags packed. We can say that was his den, right? He's packed them, right? He goes along with his past, even with his now. He has gotten to the top of that rock. And so that is his now and here. So how you need to get from that rock to that picture on the right? Maybe he's picturing the clouds. He's picturing somewhere higher, right? Even than that rock. Maybe all his life he has planned, oh, let's go hiking, let's go mountain climbing. And there he's on that mountain. And so what next? He's not going to sleep there, right? Even if he decides to want to build a tent on that highest part of that mountain, his mind will be thinking, how do I get from here to there? And that's what minding the gap is about. So at every stage of your life, you must learn to mind the gap. You're going to fall, into error if you decide to say, oh, this part of my life, because it's not palatable, I want to leave it there. No. While you're not going to be saying, oh, we need to focus on the negatives. No, we're not focusing on the negatives. You're just speaking your learnings, and then you're running with it. You're running. So that at the end of the day, you're not running away from the learnings. No, but you're running with that in mind, at the back of your mind, so that you will not make the same mistakes that got you here and now. And you will not make that mistake when you get there, because when you get there, there will still be a then. Your there at that point will now be your then. And then your then will now still be your now and here. And then there's another there. So it's a journey. It's a process. And we should not forget that. So let's look at this next slide. It talks about the gap. The gap, it's a question. How do you join this gap successfully without falling into this ditch, right? Let's say you've moved from that picture, right? From that, remember the picture from this slide, from that mountain, and then the person gets that picture on the right, and then the person is on the picture of the right and is wondering how to join the dots. And the dots at this point would need different ways of connectivity. In this slide, you can see that particular picture, right? By the way, these pictures, we do not have rights to them. They are copyrighted from Google. We're thankful for that. But how do we join this picture? How do we join the dots? How do we mind that gap? Your own gap may not necessarily be, oh, you looking for a plug and a socket, and then you just want to join the dots and then, you know, link it up. No, your own gap may just be something that has to do with being able to jump over that cliff without falling over, without making the same errors. And so when you look at these two figures, in these two men in this picture, right? One is holding the socket, one is holding the plug, right? And then if that one that is holding the plug decides to fall into that ditch, what will happen to the one with the socket? It means that it will go useless. And so that brings us to that place where you cannot, to say that you cannot successfully mind the gap without, you know, having people around you. There are some gaps that you can mind, yes. You know, with maybe it's just about only you, you're thinking about, you're reflecting about, you know, the past, the present, even the past, the present, it was not just about you. So it's not just for us to come here and say, oh, anybody is self-made or anything like that. No, I do not believe that there's anything like that, because at some point in time, everyone, you know, put in so much. You have learned from A, you have learned from B, you have learned so many life lessons. And these life lessons are not just from robots, they are from human beings. So you need people, the right people, at every point in time to be able to join the dots. So if man A, when you look at that slide, all right, is looking at, oh, if man B decides not to know, you know, to jump over, then I can, it means that that socket is useless. There's no current that will pass through. If this other person is not able to join, you know, forces with this other person, it may just be a time where you're going to be looking for new horizons. You're looking for new relationships. You're looking for new businesses. You're looking for partnerships. If you've tried, you know, to do, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, and you're running solo and it's not working, why don't you join forces, you know, with someone with a similar value, with someone, you know, with a similar dream or vision, and then you can partner up. So that at the end of the day, your main goal is to get the current flowing. Like in this picture, your main goal is to keep that channel working. Because the truth of the matter is, your goal in life is not, should not be revolving around you alone. If you have a goal that is revolving around you alone, then it means that that goal, maybe it's just a self-care goal, right? But we're talking in relation to like the big picture, your purpose. If you have a purpose that is just around you, then it's not a purpose. Your purpose should be something bigger than you. If it does not keep you awake in the night, there's a saying that goes, you know, that if it's not big enough to keep you awake, to make you like anxious, or to make you feel like how, to make you start thinking, how will this be done? Then it may not be big enough. Maybe it's just a soft, you know, soft enjoyment goal, just a self-care goal. Even the soft life goal or the soft enjoyment goal, you know, needs people to actualize it. If you decide to want to say, oh, I've worked so hard, I need some vacation and all of that, you still need to maybe reach out to your travel guide. You need to reach out to the person who will book your ticket, or if it's something that you need to do, maybe if you're not going for like a vacation, you're going for a staycation, like people call it, where you do not travel, you stay within your locality, but still find the means to enjoy, you know, life, right? You still need to connect to people. to make it worth the while, you still need to connect to people. And connecting to the right people is key. That's the point that we're making from this slide. How do you mind that gap? You need to mind your relationships. You need to mind who you connect with. You need to mind the kind of partnerships and alliances that you form. Because imagine in this slide, the man on the left is bringing, the man on the right together. And if they connect with all the drama in between and the cliff, maybe one is able to go over to the next side, or the other one is able to come over to the next side. If they're able to connect by a miracle, right? And they now find out that there's no current actually in the plugs and the socket that they are carrying, then it will mean that all their efforts would have been a waste. You don't want that to happen. After going through this level of stress. So it means that you may need to find the right people. And that's where that slide that we looked at before the current slide looks at the importance of joining the dots from the then, your now, your here, on the way to your there. You will need to join that dot. You will need to be more mindful. Be mindful about the kind of people that are in your circle. Be mindful about the things that you put on your inside so that it's easier for you to move to these steps. In this next slide, we say about 5 steps, but you can have up to 10, 100, and more steps to going or getting to your goal, right? We're looking at minding the gap for you to get to from here, for you to get to there, for you to get to that place where you're going to find that treasure that you're looking for. You need to walk in line with these steps. And if you have not successfully minded the gaps, you will not be able to get the steps that you're going, the steps that will work. It will just look as if, oh, these steps or these things are not working. That's how it will look like. And the very first step that I would like us to look at is the fact that you must have, I've titled it, the steps in minding the gap. The very first one from my slide is that you have a conference with yourself. You need to have a conference with yourself. You need to have a conference with yourself to that point where you're like, you're calling yourself, your body, your mind, and your spirit together, all by yourself, in a conference. And that leads me to that point to say that some people cannot be by themselves. Some people do not know that boredom in itself is a gift. When my children say, oh, mommy, I'm bored, I tell them, boredom is a gift. Enjoy it. And so it will help them. What am I driving at by saying that? It will help them be able to appreciate their me time. It will help you appreciate what you need to be doing at every point in time. You're not supposed to, you may not have your heads in the clouds every time. Yes, you may not have to, be around people every time. It will help you appreciate the times that you spend with yourself. I've written here in my notes. I've said that you need to be able to enjoy the conference with yourself. You should get to a point where you say, oh, Olurunke, we need a conference at this point because this and this is not working. You're telling yourself that all by yourself. You're calling yourself into a conference. So that's the first step. Talks about dedicating a time for self-conference. Some people call it worry time. We're not saying that, oh, you should now worry, and worry for the whole world. No. Some people call it worry time. I like to call it self-conference time. And people who call it worry time do not mean that in the negative. right? They don't mean that you worry to a point where you should now be anxious. You should now be experiencing anxiety and panic attacks. No, it's just the time for you to reflect. That's why I like to call it self-conference time, a dedicated self-conference, right? That helps you to face your worries and channel the energy appropriately. So you're not just sitting by yourself, thinking about everything that has gone wrong and the things that have gone right and the things that you need to do. It's a time where after, calling yourself to that conference, being by yourself. Yes, being by yourself. You may call it a retreat. Yes, dedicate that time for you to be able to channel the energy that you get. And self-conference time is not a time where you're just there, just thinking. You're not writing. Because things will be coming to your mind. The steps that you need to follow, that leads us to the next step, where you have to listen, right? Where you have to listen. There's something called listening therapy. If we still have time, I'll be able to share the link so that you can test yourself to know how much do I listen? How well do I listen? Practical ways for you to be able to listen, right? And then when you're able to do all that, and when you're listening to yourself, you're listening to the things that are coming to your heart, the things that God will be placing in your heart at that time, the ideas that will be coming to you. It's not a time where you should get depressed. I'm not talking about, self-conference time. You wallowing in anxiety and then feeling panic attacks and then feeling depressed and then staying there. No, I'm talking about a strategic meeting with your mind, with your body, and with your spirit, with yourself. A strategic time where you document things, right? And that leads you to that next step, where you'll be able to listen to your inner mind on practical ways for you to be able to mind the gap. And as you're listening, you are able to factor in, different solutions to everything that you may have outlined in your step 1 and in your step 2. And then that's the point where you start deploying different things. And if you start feeling somehow, maybe you start feeling some negative energy in that process, there are so many things that you can try out. We're going to practically try out, one of those therapies that work before we close today, so that you can use it. It will be my gift to you so that you can use it at every point in time where you may feel stuck, where you feel that you need some clarity, for all the things that you need to do. You need to be able to, do that solution-focused, approach to all that you need to do. So that you're not just thinking about, the problem, but that's why I like to call it that self-conference time. It's not just a time to worry. It's a time where even if you worry, you bring out the solution in that instant. Someone may come to mind that may help. A relationship may just, pop up in your mind, and you may say, this person may be able to help from this ditch or from this point that I found myself. At this point, if you have any question, feel free to drop it in the chat room. Feel free to send a DM so that we'll be able to, treat it as we go. And then in this point, you're looking at how to go through everything that you need to do to manage the anxiety that you feel. Because there's a tendency that in these steps, you will go through either the fright and the flight and the freeze mode. Okay, they call it the flight and the fright or the freeze mode. So because at the point where you're afraid, right? That's you being afraid. You may want to put up a fight. for your mind. You may want to put up a fight for your life, or you may want to flee. These are all natural human tendencies. They are natural instincts of man to be able to fight anxiety. You may want to be in either the flight mode, where you want to just run away, or you may want to be in the fight mode, where you just want to stick with it and see what will work. Don't forget where it's coming from. It's coming from that place of fright. And then you get into flight mode, either to say, oh, I have seen what I'm afraid of, and now I just need to run. That's the flight mode. And then, or you may want to say, oh, even though I have been afraid, I feel like flying, but I need to stay to fight it. And in this process, you may feel anxiety, you may feel all these emotions coming through your mind, moving through your body, and then maybe wanting to even take over your system. But while you stay with that grind, you may just need to step out and then just be able to breathe. Just being able to breathe. My husband was sharing with me this morning, the thought that he just had, when he looked at so many things that so many people around him are going through. And he just thought to, share with someone or share with a group of people that they should, just breathe. Everything will be better. And that's a very good word that you can hold on to. Just breathe. If you can just breathe. A lot of people are walking with their breath held. They're walking so uptight. You're walking around with that very uptight mood. But you need to breathe. You need to breathe. And if you do not breathe, there's no how you're going to be able to fight that anxiety, that panic that you feel on your inside. You may not be able to see clearly into the next step. And so that comes to that, it takes us to that point where we should look at how to manage all these emotions, how to manage this anxiety. How do we manage it? How do we manage it? And that leads us to one of the therapies I'm going to share with us today. It's called solution-focused-based therapy, right? A therapy where you're not just focusing, on the problem. You are able to focus on the solution. Within that therapy, there's one very part that excites me. It's called the miracle sheet. Even in therapy, we know that, it's not about magic. It's about miracle. And if you're there with your notepads and with your journals, you may just want to, soak yourself into this therapy, because this is like a group thing. We may not have all that time to really follow all the, steps in that therapy. But one good thing that I will need you to pick out from just this tip is to get out your journal and then write down in like your miracle sheet, asking yourself, what if you wake up, you sleep just now, and you wake up and find out that everything that you have been worrying about is sorted? That's the first question in the solution-focused-based therapy that I will ask us today. You may want to take a pause or write it down, but I think that you should really take note of it, okay? On your miracle sheet, we can do it together. On your miracle sheet, what if you sleep tonight and you wake up tomorrow morning by God's grace and you find out that every single issue that you have ever worried about is sorted? It may seem unrealistic in your mind, and that's why it's a solution-focused therapy. It's not like you should think unrealistically. No, you should think the solution. You should think that there's a miracle at the end of the day. So if therapy recognizes the effect of miracles, because it does happen, the things that you, all the problem that you have tagged, oh, this is like an iceberg problem, is rooting deep into your past, you know, and then is bringing out that tip. And what people are seeing on the outside is just that tip of the iceberg. They don't know what you're going through right in the source. But you are there believing that for some miracle, this iceberg will go off. But you know deep down that before it goes off, the root has to be dealt with. That's where this therapy comes to mind. You will need to list out everything that you think you're worried about. And at the end of the day, once you're able to sum it up, it will help you, you know, to be able to manage your anxiety. You will know the steps to take. When you get into that self-conference mode, you will know what you need to do per time. You will know what the people you're supposed to call. You will know how you're going to mind these gaps that are there. You're walking around with so much mind gap. Some people are they don't even know how to move from there to here. And all you just do is just to, you know, you look good and then you move about. Life is more than that. While we know that it is very key to do your self-care, it's all about you know, it's all in the process, yes. But don't just cover up in the pretense that, oh, everything is okay. And so when I ask people, how are you? I expect, you know, very honest answers, not just the default, oh, I'm fine, thank you. No, you should get to that point where you're able to share, where you're able to reach out. And that takes me to that next step. Still on the solution focused based therapy, right? You look at, what if you wake up and all these issues are just gone? How do you think, you know, they are going to go away? How? And you may start looking, you know, out for, maybe you may need to reach out, you know, to a professional coach. I'm here. You can reach out to me. If I'm unable to, you know, maybe do the session, I work with a network of professionals, you know, that will be able to signpost you to and say, oh, this at this point, if your issue maybe has to do with maybe finances or whatever, I have a financial coach that I can refer you to. If it has to do with parenting, if it has to do with this, if at that point I'm unable to, you know, take it probably for one schedule or the other, we will definitely be able to signpost you to the right place where you're going to, you know, get that, you know, clarity that you need. And so no one at every point in time should walk alone. No one. It's a taboo in our tribe, if I say so myself, for you to walk alone. And then you're like, oh, I didn't know. And then you're falling into one error. No, don't walk alone. It's all about minding the gaps. When you're able to mind the gaps, you see what worked and now what is not working and how you are able to join the dots. You don't know how you're going to get past from here to there. You don't know how that miracle will happen. Then you need to be able to, you know, mind that gap. You need to be able to, you know, reach out to people. You need to be able to reach out to the right people and take the right and necessary steps in managing your emotions. So it's not just about you just saying, oh, your emotion is the color purple today, or it's color red, or it's color yellow, or it's color this and that. No, it's about knowing how to go from here to there. And so if you need maybe more tips, you know, about that solution focused based therapy, we'll be able to explore it better in a one-to-one session, you can reach out after now. You can reach out after now. Send me an email, emotionalwellnesstribe@gmail.com. And then we'll be able to take it off from there. Or reach out to me, or, on our social media website. We'll get to that point later. But I just thought to, chip it in right now. Okay? But the point we're making is for you to be able to see that miracle happening. It's not like it will just pop up, okay, and just wipe away. No, of course not. But your miracle may just be in being able to link up with the right person that will give you the right signposting, that will give you the right information at the very point in time that you need it. That's how it works. Okay? That's how it works. And then you'll be able to, another aspect of that solution-focused based therapy is to be able to make exceptions and say, oh, does this happen? What I feel or how I feel at this point, does it usually happen only when this happens? Or does it usually happen only when so person shows up? Does it usually happen only when there's a task ahead of me? Do I feel like this? Do I feel this anxious? Do I feel this panic attacks? Maybe when I'm supposed to do something or when I'm not doing it. And then you'll be able to say, oh, it only happens when this and this and this. You make exceptions. There will be exceptions to that rule. There will be spots where you can feel, there will be gaps where you can mind accurately so that you'll be able to find that which works at the end of the day. I want to move quickly because we have just about 4 minutes more, okay, before this session is over. And then I'm leaving you with this practical step. This practical step of being able to mind your mind, being able to mind the gap every time you feel overwhelmed. And that's what takes us to what we call emotional freedom techniques. It's called EFT. It's called tapping, okay? It's like a variation of acupuncture, only that this time it's not like you're piercing your energy meridians or the energy spots of your body with sharp objects or with needles like in acupuncture. But in this particular situation, you're tapping on those meridians, you're tapping on those spots, right? You're tapping on those energy spots of your body. Every part of your body is linked up together. It's joined together. Even your body is a good example of the fact that you need every part. You need people to survive. So your head cannot say, oh, because my hand is problematic, I don't want to deal with it. No. Your leg cannot say, oh, because my body is tired, I don't want to move from here to there. There's no how. Everything is joined together. Through these energy points, you can pass in positive energy through them so that every form of negativity is off. So if you're watching at this point, you may want to try it out and do it also at your very free time, okay? Where we do this tapping. It's called the emotional freedom technique. You can see me tapping top of my head, right? That's an energy spot. And then you tap the side of your eye. That's why I'm removing my glasses. Your eyebrow is part of it. Underneath your eye is part of it. Your chin or your brow here is part of it. And then here, your chin is part of it. Your collarbone is a part of it. And then underneath your arm, just here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but I could share a picture, on this slide later, right? It's part of it. And then what we call the karate chop, just here, is also part of it. So, and then what you do is that you don't just tap and just keep tapping, right? You say positive words. And then there's like I don't want to call it a mantra, but it's a standard, what's it called? It's a standard procedure while doing EFT to say that, those positive words, like, even though I feel this anxious, I deeply and compassionately love and accept myself. I deeply and compassionately love and appreciate myself. You may want to do it and do it as we go. I deeply and compassionately love and appreciate myself. Even though I feel this level of anxiety, even though I feel this anxious, I deeply and compassionately love and appreciate myself. I love myself. I love myself. Under your eye, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. So it doesn't matter which hand that you use. Even though I feel this anxious, I deeply and compassionately love and appreciate myself. I love myself. I love myself. And once you tap, you tap, you tap, you tap, keep tapping those energy spots, keep tapping those, energy points and the meridians of your body. And then you do that. You can do like 3 or 5 reps of that. And then you take in a deep breath and release it. Another deep breath and release it. So you can try that over and over. It works. It's a simple therapy and a simple technique that works. At the end of the day, you will be able to, once you're able to do that, you can repeat it as many times as possible, especially when you're not operating maybe heavy machinery, when you're not driving or anything. Just tap into those energy points, into those energy meridians. Tap. The leverage that you have is that you're able to speak life into, that situation that you're going through. You're able to speak life into it. And then feel free to also reach out. Feel free to reach out. Send me an email, send me a DM on my social media handles at Oluronke Oluwalere, on my email, emotionalwellnesstribe@gmail.com. And then we'll be able to, effectively mind every gap that you may have from your then and your now on the way to your there. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. I know that maybe because the time was short, we were not able to go through that therapy, but you can rewatch, because this video will be on YouTube, will be posted on YouTube much later, and then you can rewatch over and over again. Do your tappings, do everything that you need to do. Do not forget that miracle sheet in the solution focus based therapy. You may want to also research it. You're free. Do all that you need to do just to make sure that that gap is well-minded. Thank you, everyone. Until we see another time. Is there any question quickly before we go? Is there any question? Okay, someone said, I can't see any slides. Oh, sorry about that. I'm sure that you'll be able to, we were sharing the screen earlier. Okay, and then, but at least you'll be able to pick up everything. If you could not see, the slides from your end, sorry about that, but you will be able to just follow through all that we've done. Okay, and then you'll be able to apply it. You'll be able to apply it as you should. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been an amazing time here today, and I want to thank you for joining. Thank you for always taking time out to mind your mind. And don't forget, the world will be a better place when we all are able to mind our minds, and when we are able to also mind the gaps. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. So feel free to still send me messages after now. You can go to YouTube, send me a message, go to my DM, send me a message, send me an email if you have any questions, coming up much later from your heart. Thank you so much, everyone. Do have an amazing day. Bye.